Welcome to the Dubcast with Dubside. This is a special guest edition of the Dubcast. If you have a Tahe Marine Greenland kayak, one of the earlier ones, on the back deck it says designed by Worson, and that's short for Johan Wirsen. And that is who I'm going to interview today. So we talked about designing kayaks, how he got started designing and building kayaks, the first job he had as a kayak designer. Talked about the start of the Tahe Marine Greenland model, and talking about plugs in the manufacturing process, the Greenland T and the seat adjustment on that one. We got into royalty issues and how he started Rebel Kayaks, the factory in Poland, how he turned down an option to make kayaks in China, how Rebel Kayaks got their name, and we ended with him talking about playing guitar.
Yeah.
This runs about a little more than an hour.
All right. Well, let's talk. So I am in Sweden at Petrus Kayak, and it is the 6th of August or something like that. Yeah. And I'm talking to Johan Wirsen, who designed what was originally the Tahe Greenland kayak. It is now the Rebel kayak, and you're responsible for that original design, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Dubside.
Hi. How's it
Good
going?
to see you.
Yes, good to see you too.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah. So in the podcast, I can't remember which episode it is, but I described the Tahe Rebel development, that whole thing. So people are straight on who designed it and that sort of thing. And I've talked to other designers, talked to Bjorn Thomason, and mentioned other people. So I would just like to know more about how you started in kayaking and how you designed kayaks and those sorts of things.
Yeah, actually the first knowledge of kayaks I had was when I was like 16, 17 years old. I got a skin-on-frame kayak.
Okay.
And it was awful kayak to paddle. It was tippy. I couldn't handle it.
You didn't make this? You just got it?
No, I just got it as a gift.
Somewhere. Okay, yeah.
I was working on a farm, and there was a skin-on-frame kayak laying in the barn.
Uh-huh.
And because I'm coming from a family with boats, sailing boats, fishing boats. My father was a fisherman. So, of course, I was curious. And I asked, what's that? Oh, take it. So I got it. And I had to paint it, fix it, and I couldn't actually paddle it. Because nobody could teach me. But I got an interest. But then I wanted to, finally, when I grow up, I become older, like 25 years or something like that. I wanted to buy a kayak, but I didn't have afford to buy them,
Okay.
So I started to build my own kayaks, and that was the fun part. And
this was like skin-on-frame?
no,
Wait.
I was building in plywood. And stuff like that. The cheap kayaks I could use, and it started actually to be more commercial when I was working as a printer. I had 2 kids, I had a family, I have all this financial, so I had to have a regular work, So, but when I was unemployed, I went to become a boat builder to school in Gothenburg.
Okay.
Which I always wanted to do. I had built some old stuff and kayaks, but I love sailing boats and bigger boats. So that's why I'll take.
This is a school for boat building or boat designing or both?
Boat building actually more. Not design.
Okay.
But and then we had a lot of holiday cruises, sailing boats, yacht wars they were building in Sweden at that time.
Okay.
So there was a school in Gothenburg, and I was thinking, okay, I don't have any work, I can do something else. I can go to school, learn how to build a boat.
All right.
So I did that. And I had a teacher there, which was really good, because we started to talk about design and how to design and how to make lofting of boats and so on.
Lofting?
Lofting, yeah.
What's that?
How to, if you take a kayak or another boat in sections,
Okay.
you know, how to see the sections of the boats, how the water flows around the boat and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's the hydro thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that become really interesting for me, because if you're building a sailing boat, you want to have a fast, efficient sailing boat, of course. And it's the same with the kayak and all boats, you know.
Yeah.
So that became interesting, and I'm also very traditional when it's into sailing boats. And we in Sweden we have a very good old sailing boats. So I just studied that back home. I was lending books on the library and reading a lot of books by myself.
Okay.
And then I started to make an experiment. And when I then started to go more into kayaks, of course I was National Museum in Copenhagen. I was looking Greenlandic boats. I was looking at that kind of things, and I built copies from drawings. And then I realized it's not me. I don't have a body like an Inuit.
Okay.
You know, so I had to transform that in my way of thinking what I was looking for, and change the beam or the length and all that. I couldn't measure on my body to build the kayaks that suits me.
Okay.
So I ended up with my own models. And then in the local club in Kalmar, there were friends of mine. They had the kayaks, of course, but they wanted to build you can call them prototypes or experimental boats.
Okay.
So they wanted to build that. So they were building plywood boats in my little garage together with friends. But then one day they asked me to because I had a company, can you buy some sea kayaks, glass fiber boats? Because I had a company. So I contacted a company in Sweden, and I bought some boats, and they come on a truck. Of course I had to go testing them, and I found them really boring.
Yeah.
So I called the company and I said, well, why don't you build better kayaks? And that's the only thing I think I've been that tough to actually do that, but I did it.
Yeah.
And the thing was that, who are you? Why do you complain on our boats? And I said, well, try one of mine and you will see the difference. And so they actually gave me a job.
Okay.
The first kayak I commercially designed, and so I just made the drawings on sent it over a fax to them, and it showed up in the boat show in Stockholm in February with the plug, and they hadn't even seen it, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it at all, because it didn't look like the other brands that were on the show.
Okay.
But it took like half an hour, 40 minutes maybe. Then there was a woman. She came, she looked at the kayak and she said, I like that. She said, I like that. And then I became a kayak designer.
Okay.
For the businessman.
Uh-huh.
So I was introduced like that. So I made a lot of different models for them, that company.
Right. Well, my knowledge of, often the owners of kayak companies aren't designers.
No.
They're the businessmen, and so they need to subcontract out, find somebody who can really design kayaks, and then pay them to do the design. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I was working for two companies, you can say. So I made sea kayaks for them, and so I had a little different looks, because I was thinking like, it's good if you are I'm not a businessman, but if you are a businessman and you have a car brand or whatever, you know, you can see it's a Volvo, it's a Jaguar, it's a Ford or whatever. I wanted to do the same with the kayaks. So I made two different looks But actually I had the same way of thinking into the kayak, but just design the looks of it. If it's you see a kayak on a rooftop of a car. So I started to think like that and work like that. And then the third company came. Can you please we will start a new company. Can you?
So you had a reputation now?
Yeah,
as a kayak
Actually,
designer?
I got
Okay.
a reputation quite quickly.
Wow.
And they had a kayak marathon in Stockholm. And I think the first year they were paddling with my kayaks, there were maybe 5 of my models there on that, in the sea kayaks division. And the next year I went to Stockholm to see the marathon. There was like 100. Because they won the first year,
100 of your kayaks?
Yes.
Okay.
So from 5 kayaks one year to 100 the next year. Mm-hmm. They really kick off.
So the other kayaks, I mean, at that time, in that place, they were more like wreck boat kind of things, not high performance?
No, but they were very much British boats.
Okay.
And if you look at the British boats from Derek Hutchinson's time and that kind of, or Rion, or what's the name of them, they were a little bit more double curved in the water lines and stuff. And I made that much straighter. So it's more like the tide race kayaks, if you look in the history of British boats.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was because that's what you do with a sailing boat. You don't want to have double curved water lines or the diagonals.
Double curved water lines, what is that?
If you look on a water line from above, how the water goes like that, and if it's double curved, it's like that in the bow and the stern.
On the bow and the stern.
I mean, the distance from A to B.
Yeah.
The shortest way is a straight line.
Okay.
But you can't have you have to have a beam of the boat so you can fit in it.
Yeah.
But make it as short as possible. Make it as straight as possible.
Okay.
And the bend, when the boat is the beam is placed, you have to design, because you want to have the center of buoyancy and so on, and you should fit in it and all the sizes for the human being. But otherwise, try to make it as smooth as possible for the water to, or you should go through the water,
Okay.
Because the wetted surface is it's the most drag from you.
It's the most
Drag.
Yeah.
So that's what I started to think about. And in the beginning, I also was using resistance program on the computer.
Okay.
And you can make a long kayak which is very fast, but it needs a big engine. And we are not a big engine.
Okay.
As a person, you're not a big engine if you paddle 3 hours, maybe a whole day.
Right.
So make it as fast as possible for the small engine.
Yeah.
So I remember from the time when there was Sea Kayak magazine, the American paper, they made a good test on kayaks.
Yeah, they had an evaluation of kayaks, and they had all little graphs and things, and
Yeah. And they made some of my kayaks were tested in that paper.
Okay.
And you could also go behind on the web page they had to get more information that they actually printed. And I mean, I was designing in my computer, I'm calculating in my computer. So I have the calculation before they had it, So I could go back and check. And they made a really great work when they testing the kayaks.
All right.
I mean, some details could be a little different from mine, but it was very good work.
All right.
And I was thinking that, how strong are we? We are just a quarter of a horsepower or something like that. That means it's only 1.5 kilos pulling power through the water. And if you can make a kayak a little faster with that little effort, that energy you put in, the better it is. So I don't build racing kayaks for Olympics because they paddle straight on flat water and so on. But as less resistance you can have, that's better.
All right.
I'm a lazy guy. And one of the best, easiest, less resistant kayaks is the Ilaga.
Okay.
But the top speed is not that really high, but it's very comfortable speed. So if you have like 3 pounds or 1.5 kilos or something pulling you forward,
Okay.
and you can almost reach 4 knots on that, that's good.
Yeah.
So that was one of the kayaks on the top of the list.
Yeah. So that Ilaga, that is the what in the U.S. we first called the Tahe Greenland kayak.
Yeah,
That's the original design. That was yours.
yeah.
How did that start?
It started. I had been working with other sea kayaks, and a friend of mine
With what?
other sea kayaks,
Otter?
other boats.
Oh, other
Yeah.
sea kayaks.
And when I started the project with the Ilaga, because I paddled that kind of kayaks myself, but they didn't see any commercial value in those kayaks when I was talking about it for companies, because they talk about big numbers in sales.
Yeah.
So they didn't believe in that.
So you had that design,
Yes, I had
but
it,
they weren't interested in doing
They
it.
were not interested in doing
Okay.
that. So a friend of mine, Thomas, he was a car mechanic, and he was so tired of his work, and he loved boats. So we were actually planning to start that company ourselves
Okay.
in a really one-man show, if you call it. Thomas was supposed to build them, but then he got cancer and he was sick, and the plug was already done for production, and it was just laying in my workshop for almost 2 years, I think. And then I realized I was working with Tahe company, and I made some other kayaks for them before. So I said, now it's time to put that on the market. And they said, no, there's no value. We can't make any money on that. But I said, you pay me the royalty, but you don't have to pay me because I already have the plug, for the work I put into
So
building.
explain how plugs work.
A plug is something you can make a mold on.
Okay.
So you,
A plug is made out of what?
it could be whatever. It could be wood. It could be a
Right.
styrofoam.
It's the shape of the inside of the kayak?
It looks actually exactly like the kayak on the outside of the kayak.
Okay.
And on top of that, you make a mold,
Okay.
a female mold.
All right.
So you make one for the deck, mold for the deck, and one for the hull, usually.
Yeah.
And then you throw the plug away. It's
Okay.
just garbage. But the purpose is just to make the mold.
All right.
So I had that laying in my workshop, and I more or less convinced them to, okay, make it. It's the cheapest model you can put on market, because you don't have to pay for my working hours when I built it. But you have to pay me the royalty for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So they showed up with it, and unfortunately I couldn't go to that Nuremberg show when they showed it.
Yeah.
And that was a hit from the start.
And that was about what year?
That's 15 years ago, I guess.
So 2009, 2008?
8.
2008. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really kicked off. That was selling a lot of it.
Now, the first one to get into the different models, there was as I recall it, in the early days, there was an OC and an LC, and then the T came later.
Yeah.
And I recall it at Kayak Academy in Seattle, George, one day, this is about 2008, he said, I got, some other manufacturers sent some kayaks, or we'll check them out. And we went out on the lake, and I got it was the OC model of the Ilaga, and I wasn't that impressed with it. It didn't, but when some years later, that LC, that was the one I really liked. Just a little bit more space in the cockpit.
Yeah.
To me, made all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, some people like the OC more than
I made a really small cockpit
Yeah.
on my kayak, the first one. I like to have the stomach against
Okay.
like that, but it was not that comfortable for people.
Yeah.
I'm a tall guy, but I could actually get in the kayak and get out too. But
Yeah. Well, and my main evaluation is how it rolls.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was just the way that was confining my thighs, or somehow it just
Yeah.
it didn't roll as well as it.
no, so after get the feedback from customers and so on. So I made it a little bit bigger.
Yeah. So that was the LC model.
Yeah, yeah. And then you had a, I think it was actually for Norway, some customers, dealers, who wanted to have the Ilaga with a really 80 centimeters long cockpit.
Okay.
And I said, no, I refuse to do that because that will also ruin the harmony and the looks of the kayak, you know. So I actually increased the Ilaga 4% on height and width.
Yeah, wider.
Yeah.
For the.
But I didn't change the length of it.
Okay.
And that became what we call today Greenland T.
Greenland T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest cockpit.
Yeah.
And that was also a good selling kayak. Is still a good selling kayak. But finally, after a couple of years there with Tahe, we had to split.
Yeah. Well, before that, can you tell me, you had these ideas on paper, and when they transformed them into a production kayak, were there problems or differences? Did they have to make any changes, or was there anything that you weren't satisfied with when it became a production kayak?
The discussion, no, because I made everything. So they just copied it with building the molds.
Okay.
But of course I had questions about the material that we're using, and I wanted to increase quality in some aspects of the building.
Yeah.
So, because that's also a big thing. I know that the first Ilaga that came out was very weak in the deck, and
they were making it too thin.
Yeah, light but too thin. So that's a part which is also interesting me, of course, the quality and how to build them, and nowadays when we build an Ilaga as a rebel kayak, there is a totally different layups and much different and what I think better product.
Yeah.
But I know there are still some people who wants asking me, can't you build with a really small cockpit?
Yeah.
But I don't even have that mold, so nothing, you know.
Is that the original OC?
The first one.
The first one, yeah.
So we actually don't have that, and we will never produce any of those, but people are still asking for them.
Yeah.
This happens.
Well, there are a lot out there, right? I mean, the market was flooded with all these
it was a really big hit, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I met people from South America who asked them. In South America, I was visiting a friend in New Zealand once, and we were passing a kayak shop, and so of course he knew that. But to make it fun for me, we stopped and we went in, and the first thing you saw was an Ilaga. And the guy in the shop, oh, wow, look at that kayak, and you know. Yeah, and my friend said, well, if you got any question, ask Johan.
Yeah.
He's the guy who made it, you know. So that's, I guess there is all over.
Yeah.
You know?
So, but there's something about, as I understand, the seat, especially in the Greenland T model, when they went to produce it, they pushed the seat back a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that, how that worked.
Yeah, I make a big mark in the kayak when I leave it. There should the seat be, you know.
That's where you designed the seat to be.
Because I designed the whole kayak around where you should sit, you know, to get the balance in the kayak. And then I saw that they put the seat further back, you know. So I said, what are you doing? This is ruining the kayak. Oh, it's better if we can sell more because people are sit easier in and out in the shops. And I said, but it ruins the kayak.
Yeah, the whole design is dependent on where that seat's supposed to be.
Because I always, when I build a prototype, and I live, you have been at my place, Dubside, but I mean, I live on an island on the southeast of Sweden. And of course, I always paddle the prototypes and to check the balance of the boat. I mean, you can calculate a lot of that, but you can't get the fine-tuning it. Mm-hmm. You have to check that. Yeah. So I always paddle that, the prototypes, the first kayaks, without any skeg, anything. Just by leaning forward, back for the different wind, waves, different situations. until I'm satisfied, and then I leave it for production.
Yeah.
And then if they change the seat position, it's, yeah.
So if sliding the seat back, that would make the kayak, what, harder to turn or weathercock more? If you were forward, it would weathercock more. But if
it's weathercock more if you're moving forward. So it could actually go downwind if you're having the two load in the back.
But for general paddling, if you're too far back, that just makes it harder to turn. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It does.
At Kayak Academy, that we discovered that we took the screws out and moved the seat up like 2 inches or so.
Yeah.
The performance is much better, which is go along the lines of how you originally designed it.
Yeah. So that's a thing. And I usually paddle the kayak. Where I live, I can go if it's a windy day. I can paddle almost in flat water in the harbor where I live, and just be affected by the wind, and then I can go out in the waves also, of course. But I check it also in the wind, and if it's we usually can have a currents in the, because I live on the west side of the island, so we have the mainland.
Okay.
It could be a current for 2 or 3 knots there as most. So I can check it in different places where there's no currents and how it behaves in waves and different angles from the wind and so on. And when I can get it weather cooking by leaning forward, and I can get it downwind by laying my back on the deck.
Then you're right in the sweet spot.
And to be a little obscure, there was one guy who asked me where to put the seat, and I said, where you got your balls.
Okay.
Yeah. You have, because that's the center of buoyancy, more or less.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Now, is that where they pushed the seat back when they went to manufacture it? Did they do that with the Ilaga as well, or just the
Ilaga? They couldn't do that much, but the Greenland T was that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they actually made it on some other models also.
Yeah.
So, but I was always complaining on stuff like that.
Now you've designed many other kayaks for Tahi, right? All the other ones that we don't pay that much attention to them in America because all we're interested in is your Greenland style.
Yeah, but I'm designing a lot of kayaks which not even mention my name.
Yeah,
I'm if thing, plastic, rotomolded, whatever kid stuff, if you can say.
And you were still getting royalties on all those, or you were supposed to? Anyway.
I was supposed to get royalties on those.
Now we get to this part of the story, right?
The sad story, sad part. No, but when you don't get paid, you shouldn't work for people, So I got the idea to instead of ruin my mind, I would start to make my own company with the
originally. That model, it said on the back, designed by J. Initial Wirsen. Your name was on it.
Yeah.
And then after a while, your name wasn't on it.
No.
And then after a while, it wasn't Tahe, it was Ziegel.
Yeah.
And then it just got confusing after that.
Everything was very confusing. Ziegel was a Swedish brand, actually. I helped the guy who started that. I made 2 kayaks for him, and we made a rotor-molded kayak. And they were bought up by Tahe.
Okay. Yeah.
And they made a Ziegel like a premium brand or something, so they lifted in whatever their models under that name.
Yeah.
So it's just like car industry does.
It's a marketing thing.
Marketing thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I quit all the contracts I had with Tahe and other companies which I didn't get paid off.
Okay.
And I was thinking, okay, I got to take care of myself. I want to have a pleasant life and sleep well. So I started Rebel Kayaks instead.
All right.
With a producer in Poland, which has been working great for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big company, but it's we have fun.
Now, do these other companies still make some of your kayaks and just not pay you?
Yeah, they do.
But you're not bothering with the lawsuit because that's just a big mess to pay lawyers a bunch of money, right?
I'm only a poor guy I don't have money to fight with lawyers,
Yeah.
And that's the company knows that.
Yeah.
So I try to sleep well anyway.
But I think you've made the best of it. You make Rebel kayaks now, and you're selling kayaks, and it's working good for you.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. That's cool.
So I mean, life goes quite quick, you know. So
Yeah.
I want to take care of it. I want to do other stuff also.
Yeah.
You know.
So you made some little changes when you started making them yourself with Rebel. Like the seat was a bit different, right?
The seat was a little bit different. We made a double seam between deck and hull. They had problems with the tire production because they had a skeg box, was a pre-manufactured plastic thing that laminated into the boats. And in Sweden and all cold countries,
Yeah.
you know, humidity and frost and all that starts to leak. So we built a skeg box. When in the same process as we make the hull, it's an integrated part of the hull. Some other little deck fittings and stuff like that, but more or less it's the same kayak.
Yeah, the overall shape is the same.
The overall shape is. And then of course I developed a smaller one, which is called Naya, and also made some other teenager model, which actually not in production yet.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that's smaller than the Naya.
Yeah, it's smaller than a Naya, but it's because the pandemic years. We had such a demand for the models we had.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't actually we couldn't produce as many as we were asked for, and so we just put that project aside. So it's under evaluation by the local kayak club down there, Kayak.
Right. So that would be appropriate for like smaller people, like smaller women or kids.
Yeah, smaller women or teenagers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit more like a West Greenland kayak, so it had a little bit other view on to look at it.
All right.
But it's
so you can't just take the dimensions of the one and shrink it all 5%. You got to do a little bit more tweaking to get it just
you
right.
have to. No, I always tweak a little bit.
Yeah.
You have to check when you. It's very comfortable when you have a computer. I'm not a good worker with computers, but I can use a computer and my old boat building programs, you know, boat design programs. So you always save them, and then you can go in and tweak a little bit and look, and you have to check where you have the center of buoyancy and the center of lateral area and all those values.
Okay.
And then my way of working is that when I've done that, because it's difficult for me to see, even if I can turn it to twist it around 3D on the screen.
Yeah.
I want to have a really good look at it. So I always make what we call a lofting by hand on my long working bench in my workshop. So actually I make like them they did 200 years ago when they designed boats. I actually draw it full size on my working bench.
Okay.
From the side and from the top. And I can see all the water lines, I can do all this. And when I also built the plugs or the prototypes, I can use that as a good to get all the angles for release and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's so easy to just standing, putting your legs on the bench and checking the height of the deck. Can I fit my feet? All this stuff, I have it for free, you can say, when you have it drawn on the bench.
When I have attended Anders Dugesen from Norway, who does build kayak skin on frame building workshops. He does them in the U.S. from time to time, and I've noticed how much time he'll spend. You know, everybody's working on a kayak when they're putting the ribs on and before they put the skin on. He'll just look at these kayaks, and he'll walk to the end and look at them, walk to the side, look at them, and look down a little bit, and they'll tell people, now look, you have to just look at this, and then to make sure everything's in the right line, and you might have to tighten this lashing a little bit and push this a little bit, just to get that shape just right. Yeah. So it sounds like even when you're not making skin-on frames, but as with your designing with a computer, you're spending a lot of time just looking at it and just making sure everything's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do, and that's also good when you have it drawn up in full size. I mean, when you look at it on a picture or something for a long time, you don't see what's happening. You have to rest your eyes. You have to rest your mind. So I'll let it take it could take a few days just to do that. And after the computer, I always do the design in full scale. I can go up and stand on the bench to see how it looks. I mean, I've been designing rowing boats for competition. I'm designing small sailing boats and stuff like that.
Oh.
I can take the time, and that's the best time. That's the most interesting days in my work to do that.
Okay.
Because you also learn a lot about what you're doing. You should actually spend time on that.
Yeah.
And if you're building a skin or frame, of course you can put ribs on side and to check the curvation or so. But I do that on the bench.
Mm. So when you've got a design the way you want it on paper, and then it goes into production or however it's made, does it always come out exactly like you had it in mind, or is there sometimes it doesn't quite, things change a little bit sometimes?
No, but I'm stubborn. So it should come out the way I made the drawing. And I have a funny story, because when I got to know a very old boat builder on my home island, he was building the local sailing boats.
Yeah.
And he was like 93 years when he died, but when he was like 90 years old, he used to come and visiting me in my workshop. And he said, it's so interesting because you make a picture of what you want to build, and then you build, and it looks exactly as you on your picture.
Yeah.
I was taught the other way around.
This
old man, yeah.
Okay.
So he was building the boat from his eyes, and never made a drawing, and they were workable boats. And one day there was a guy from Stockholm who bought a sailing boat from him.
Yeah.
He took it to Stockholm. He an architect who was designing sailing boats, and to make all the measurements on that sailing boat. So they made a production lines and water lines, all 3 sheets of paper of the sails, everything.
Okay.
And then they invited this boat builder to Stockholm, to the National Boat Museum in Stockholm, and gave him these papers. So he only had drawings from one of his boats.
Yeah.
And that was done after the boat was built. And he gave it to me as a gift.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, but of course it should be as accurate as possible.
Okay. But like the performance of the kayak and how it handles and everything, all that you've designed for, does it always come out just how you imagined, or sometimes it's a little bit different?
I think I wish more performance than they actually come out, because you always learn something on every boat you do.
Okay.
And it's also good because when I leave it for the production guys, it takes maybe 2 months, and then I got a sample of the new kayak or so.
Yeah.
And then I stand looking for it for 1 hour or so, and then I go paddling it, and then I make a second analysis of what I've been doing.
Okay.
Often I think, okay, next time I would think about that. Maybe I should change that a little bit.
All right.
So during the building time of a plug, my mind is set on the next project.
Oh, yeah?
Because the building is not taking that. It's more handwork,
Okay.
But you have to be careful, and you can't be sloppy, of course.
Yeah.
Because the finish I built, that's what the customer will see as a product, the finish of the product.
Yeah.
So it ends up at you're sanding and polish the plug, so it should be perfect in surface and all that.
All right. Yeah.
And the surface is also different of, for instance, a rotor-molded kayak, or a glass fiber product, or epoxy as we use today, and so there is a difference in resistance in water.
Yeah.
Because of the surface.
When Tahi was making your kayaks, for a while that they were offering what, 3 or 4 different between the Kevlar and the just straight fiberglass, and it was confusing as to all the different ones, different price range and weight. And
they made a lot of different alternatives, and I was on the way of losing control over the boats. That's why I actually terminated the contract.
Yeah. Okay.
And the first boat they were building of my design was just hand laminated glass fiber boats.
Yeah.
And it was a little funny because the old production team, Tahe, they only wanted to build white hull and yellow deck on all kayaks. That was the most comfortable for them.
Okay.
And I said, well, but the yellow boat will be more heavy than a white boat or a blue boat.
Will be heavier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the gel coat is half transparent, so you need more gel coat.
Yeah. Okay.
You know? So when I started to make 2 colors on deck or hull and stuff like that, that was a struggle to get that done. You know?
Wow.
But today, most manufacturers do that. You can buy whatever. And we on Rebel Kayak, we had a lot of customers who wish a specific color on the whatever they have on the car or whatever they want to have, you know. So, well, we try to.
What was Tahi's purpose in making all these different choices of the layup?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the boat I was still paddling myself at that time, which they produced. That was a quite cheap models, and it's. Of course, I didn't pick the heaviest one. I took the lightest one with me.
Yeah.
But they had many molds for the same kayak.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many on just the Ilaga, but it was like 4 or 5 production molds at the same time.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was a lot of kayaks produced.
Yeah.
And shipped all over.
So on the Rebel kayaks now, is there just the one option, the fiberglass, or do you have more 2 different?
No, we're working with epoxy now.
Okay.
And we make the carbon Kevlar bolts and we make the carbon bolts.
That's 2 choices.
2 choices.
2 choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I usually recommend the carbon Kevlar for customers.
That's the lightest one.
No, it's not, but it's a little bit more. It's very expensive, that lightness you find in the carbon bolt.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, okay.
So
And that's light by what, 20% or less?
No, it's less. It's
less than that, yeah. Okay.
You're building very, very light anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have any numbers on them, but I get 90% of what we're doing is, or even 95 maybe, is carbon Kevlar bolts.
Yeah, all right. So how does the very good rolling characteristics of your design, was that intended from the beginning, or?
Yeah, of course it was.
Okay.
But you're actually better to say how good or bad they are.
No, it's a very good rolling kayak, and so why that is, to me, it has something to do with the foredeck. The front deck is higher than a really flat, like skin-on frame you'd find in Greenland, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm myself, because that boat is designed for me.
Okay, the Ilaga.
The Ilaga, and I'm 1.9 meters tall.
Okay.
And I'm usually 85 kilos.
Okay.
I've never played soccer, so I don't have that big legs, you know.
Okay.
But to bend forward for me, I need to raise my knees a little bit. You have to do it. You can't bend forward efficiently if you can't bend the knee.
Yeah.
And I also like to have my feet quite together.
Okay.
In a straight line over the center line when I paddle. So I have to work with them.
Yeah.
A little bit, even if you don't move them as in a racing kayak, of course. But it's a little bit of both. So you can paddle efficient, the way I have, my technique.
Yeah.
And also for me to forward ending rolls.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it came out rolling very, very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Somehow that design. And I find that there never was, well, with the original manufacturers, they gave you no foam for the mossy, so it was just fiberglass. So your knees were pushed against the fiberglass. And I used to tell people all the time, you got to put something in there to give yourself a little cushioning.
Yeah.
Does the Rebel come with some cushioning?
No. We usually have them also because it's such a personal thing. How you want you want to fit, and lots of the kayaks which is sold to to America, it's actually without seat and foot pegs and all that stuff. We actually custom made them. If the customer wants, we put the bulkheads for the feet, and we make the cockpit rim so it's not possible to put the seat in, or you have to do all the cushioning yourself.
Yeah.
So we try to meet up what the customers want, because many of them just buy the kayak for rolling.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
I've been paddling it for a small expedition myself.
Yeah.
If we're too
you have to pack carefully to get all your gear in
Yes, we
there,
have to pack
but it can be
carefully.
done.
But my former girlfriend and I we have been paddling for 4 or 5 days with the tent and all food and water and everything into Ilaga.
Yeah. I've been borrowing somebody's Ilaga for quite some time now, and I've camped out in that, and your tent poles. I have to take the tent poles away from the regular tent to stick them in the end, and it can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. And I still have my old Trangia kitchen, you know.
Yeah.
So if I take the rope around, I take that away. I can get it in the rear back.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So you have to put it in parts.
Yeah.
And I also have a very small tent, which I actually take. Usually, I put it on the bottom in front of the seat, or actually
In between your legs in the cockpit.
under my legs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's such a small tent,
Yeah.
and that gives an extra support when you go for many hours paddling. You know?
You just have to make sure you can get out with
Yeah,
a wet
I
exit
can
if you
get
don't
out.
have a good roll.
I can get out.
Yeah.
And as I told you before we started this interview, my other former Ilaga I was using, I actually have a day hatch in front of the deck.
Yeah.
And that's with my size 45 European size foot. It takes a while to get passing that box, but I can sit in it comfortable.
Yeah. So the kayaks, Rebel kayaks are all manufactured in Poland.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did that come about?
It was because the kayak industry isn't that really big. So after a couple of years of working in the industry and going for this international kayak shows and so on, you learn to know the manufacturers. Right. And I was actually asked to go and visiting that factory from another friend of mine.
Right.
And so I went there, and they had the skills to build racing kayaks. They had the skills for recreational kayaks. They were building all kinds of kayaks. But when I saw they had for the competition, I was thinking, okay, they got the technology to make good quality boats. And so I had the concept for Rebel kayaks in my head. So I asked my companion to come and visit me in Sweden. And I introduced over my kitchen table with a cup of coffee. I told him the whole concept, and I wanna go give these kayaks a new chance, you know, or what you call it. And he was just dead quiet, listening to me. And then I said goodbye and went back to Poland. And 2 days later, he called me and said, "Okay, we go for it." Because I wanted to use the technology they were using for racing kayaks, but adapt it to, of course, building a little heavier than a racing kayak, but for a Rebel. So we done that, and we changed, as I said, the double seams in the different molds and stuff like that to make them stronger and stiffer. And we actually have an oven to curing the epoxy and so on. So we raised the quality a lot.
So you're able to go to Poland from time to time and just check in on the factory.
Yeah.
Because the other option always available is to make things in China, which tends to be, I think, that it brings the cost down, but there's always a question of quality. Was that ever a consideration?
I've been in China. I was offered a job in China for one of the biggest manufacturers for kayak and rowing boats in China. They invited me because they wanted to have my design.
Like every other manufacturer owner, they don't design their own kayaks.
No. So they actually they paid a ticket. I was in China for 12 days or whatever.
Wow.
And just walking around, and they said, well, there is the building. You can build the whole production line here. And it was like it's really empty, big barn.
Yeah.
And we will build all your designs and all that. And but I decided the second day, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I saw how the people who worked there, how they were living, the environmental thing, and stuff like that. So I wasn't brave enough to tell them what I was thinking, but I was polite, and I said, well, this is much for me to think about, and I had to go home, and I just want to go home. I went home. We don't even buy a bolt or a nut from China.
Yeah. Really? No part in the Rebel kayak comes from China?
In the Rebel kayaks,
wow.
We buy everything in Europe. Of course, there can be chemical stuff in the epoxy which is coming from China, which we're out of control of.
Yeah.
But
you're not directly buying anything from China?
No. The hatches is from Finland, the skeg is from Finland.
Yeah.
We buy carbon, we buy the epoxy from UK, in Europe. That was when we had the corona or the pandemic.
Yeah.
We didn't miss anything. We could produce kayaks every day.
Wow.
We were not affected by that.
Yeah.
And I would be happy if we could produce them in Sweden, but we can't. So now we produce them in Poland, and for me, it's living in southeast. It's very comfortable. I have a 1.5 hours drive with the car, and then I can take the ferry over a night, and then I'm in Poland.
Okay, yeah.
So I can go down and be one day at the factory.
I want to make that trip with you sometime and see the factory, but maybe next year.
Yeah. No, but it's I go by the ferry, and in the beginning, of course, I went there every month.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have to go, and Poland was closed during the pandemic for quite a long time, so I couldn't even go there. But now it's open again, and I start to travel again.
But it sounds like you've got a very good relationship with the factory, and you trust them, and they're not trying to shortcut you. And
No. And they have their own brand, which is called Aquarius. That line of boats. But Rebel Kayaks is increasing, and Aquarius, I guess, is equal, or maybe selling a little bit, not that many boats anymore.
Yeah.
Because they compete with so many other brands and models, and Rebel is a little bit more by their own. It's a more niche boats.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. So in the line, in the catalog, you've got the Naya, the Ilaga, the bigger one. It's called the Husky, right?
Yeah, we have a Husky in 3 sizes.
Okay.
You can say we have the Ilaga and the Naya, which is the sister boat, the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And then we have a more touring boat, which we have in 2 sizes also.
Okay.
So we actually have the Husky, which is the most selling boat we have now.
Oh, yeah? So that would be comparable to the Greenland T, the original Greenland T designation.
No, I don't think that. But it's more competitive to the British boats.
Oh, okay.
More playful boat.
All right. So it's not designed like the Ilaga as a Greenland style?
No, it's a little bit more mixture of British boats. Or you can say British boats.
Yeah, all right.
So that's selling that's a very good selling boat, the Husky.
And you told me earlier these are selling all over the world, different places.
Yeah, we sell in 22 countries, I think now.
All right. Mostly where?
Germany.
Okay.
Sweden have been quite big, of course, but that was the decision we made from the beginning, or I made that, because I know that we will never be that big that we can offer boats to everybody.
Okay.
Because we are just a small factory. That's the limits.
Yeah.
So I decided to go for many countries with not that many dealers in every country.
All right.
So, for instance, Denmark is only one dealer. From the beginning we
Okay.
had two, but they retired both of them. So now we have only one dealer.
All right.
So we spread in many countries, and I mean we sold kayaks to South Korea.
Okay.
I mean they don't buy maybe every year, but they buy in a container, and then
All right.
the next year will be not, but the second year there will come a new order.
Huh.
And so it's changed a little bit, but about 22 countries now.
All right. Very good. How did you come up with the name Rebel Kayaks? Which is a very cool name, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a frustration,
Yeah?
but working with other companies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I want to do my own stuff.
Yeah, you're the rebel.
I want to be a
kayak
rebel
designer.
here.
Yeah. All right. Well, that fits quite well.
I don't know if how about your point of view about rebels in America politically, if it's correct to have a rebel name.
Oh,
on a kayak.
that fits just right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rebel.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
good. When you had some promotional material like the buff things you put around your neck or T-shirts thing. It said Rebel Kayaks, but I thought if you turned it around and said Kayak Rebel,
Yeah.
that would be a
That would
more
be, yeah,
shirt that people would
that
want to
could be.
wear. Like
Yeah.
like Sea Kayaker. You had a T-shirt that said Sea Kayaker. That's the magazine. But I'm a Sea Kayaker. It says Sea Kayaker on my T-shirt because that's what I am.
yeah.
So Kayak Rebel. If I'm a Kayak Rebel and it says that on my
Yeah,
T-shirt,
yeah,
that
yeah.
describes me.
No, but it's often like that. If you have a something you should do, build or design or something, try to twist it around. Look at it from
Okay.
another view,
Yeah. All right.
and then you might find a new solution on
All right.
even thinking of your production or
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
Sometimes everybody goes follow the stream.
Mm-hmm.
They look at each other, and it's like the car industry. Every car looks the same today. I
Yeah.
liked in the 60s and the old days when you can see the different brands. And
All right.
you can see the designer,
Yeah.
but many kayaks looks the same.
We could relate this to a whole other topic that you're up on, which is guitars, right? There's a whole Dubcast episode. It's called Les Paul Custom.
Okay.
They have a whole story about Les Paul Customs.
Yeah.
But we don't have to go into all that. But you play guitar, and you played in bands.
Yeah, I play in a blues band, and I play guitar and I sing.
Very good.
So it's Blues Ad Lib is the name of the band.
Okay.
It's a funny band because I'm the only one who's not any education at all. I'm just playing by ear.
Not
I
musically educated.
I don't know what kind of chords or harmonies I'm taking.
Really? All right.
And the rest of the guys have been studying and been working as music teachers and all that. And so that when they're asking what kind of chords are you taking here, and I have to go and show them my fingers.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know. But it seems like I fit in the band anyway. So
All right. Yeah.
that's my way of approaching that way.
Music rebel.
Yeah. I listen a lot of music, and when I'm listening at music, I usually listen on an artist or guitar player, whatever, for 1 month,
Okay.
and then I swap to another one.
All right.
So now I've been into, but this must be almost 2 months now. I've been watching on American Junior Watson. Junior Watson.
Junior Watson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like his style of jump blues
Okay.
from California.
Uh-huh.
I like that, and his humor. He plays funny licks,
Alright.
and
Yeah.
I'm not into that kind of blues, but that's a really joy for me,
All right. Yeah.
So and I like old American amps.
Amplifiers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. Old Gibson and Fender amps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the 60s.
Yeah.
So that's the sound.
Well, I think that wraps it up. Thank you
Yeah.
for talking with me. And,
Thank you.
I'll let you know when that episode comes out. Well, I don't know if I can email you, but
No.
it'll be. I got a few things in the pipeline, so it'll be a couple months.
No, but
maybe.
I will check your podcast.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Cool.
What are you?
All right. Well, that was the end of the regular interview, but I left my recorder running and got a nice little summary of his design philosophy, maybe you could call it.
It should be a good design from the beginning. And I think my way of thinking of good design is that a good design lasts over time.
Yeah.
It's not a fashion.
Yeah.
It should last over time. And what is a boat or what is a kayak? It's a thing that goes through water, and it should be efficient to go through water, and for the purpose of what kind of boat you're planning to build.
Yeah.
And that gives a time capsule of the knowledge we have for the moment. And if you can make it looking good and be efficient and all that together in the package, that will become a good design.
Yeah.
If you take one part from that and put that part to that, and there's a lot of compromises all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not a good solution in the end.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was making some, recreational canoes and kayaks for rotor molding.
Mm-hmm.
You got a wish list from the companies.
Yeah.
Like the Christmas kids maker. It should carry so much weight. It should be so beamy. It should be, all that. It's a long list. And in the end of that list, they said should be possible to put 40 pieces in the container.
40 of them in one container.
Yeah. I mean, how inspiring is that?
Yeah.
But that's the way the financial works, the businessman.
Yeah.
They think, okay, can we get in 4 more?
Yeah. Wow.
Same shipping cost. And they actually said, you can't make a better kayak. One time they said, you can't make a better kayak, this one, than you did previous. Because we haven't, we still have cost on that mold.
Oh, they don't want you to make a better kayak because they're still trying to get their investment back.
First, on that.
Oh, yeah. Business considerations.
Yes.
Wow.
And I don't work like that.
Yeah, being told not to make a better kayak, that's...
No. I mean, it's weird,
Yeah. Wow.
This is actually true.
Yeah.
So I don't work with those people anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
I still remember the first time I saw, I was going to Stockholm, and I saw the first .65 kayaks on a roof rack on a car we met. Wow, fuck, that was my kayaks. That's...
Yeah.
I think if you make a pop song, and the first time you hear it on radio,
yeah.
I think I had the same kind of feeling.
Wow.
Now you don't. Okay, that was one more.
All right, that is Johan Wirsen, the master kayak designer who lives in Sweden, and that was recorded in Sweden on August 6th, 2024. And that interview was made possible by all of you listeners who donated to my GoFundMe site. Made it possible for me to go to Greenland and stop in through Denmark and Sweden on the way back and get that interview and several others that you've heard already. So thank you for supporting the Dubcast with Dubside.